So now we look at how cultural issues affect the policy making, whether it's social welfare policy or other policies. So culture is difficult to define. Is culture equal to beliefs? So whatever you believe, whether you believe in God or whether you believe in heaven or hell or all that, or it's more than that. Is culture art, music, literature, or it's more than that? It adds something else also. Is culture performances, plays, movies? Is culture related to language? What is the relationship between the language and culture? Some people say that when a language becomes extinct, a culture dies. So when you learn a new language, you actually learn a new culture also. So what is the difference between the two, and what is the relationship between the two? So our greetings and manners culture, which we usually in Urdu say that this is a very cultured, person, meaning thereby that has good manners. Then is geography related to culture? And what is the relationship with family and culture? Does family affects culture, or culture is affected by family? When we move from a Pakistani family moves from Pakistan to the US, what is the culture of the family in the US? Is it Pakistani culture or the US culture or a hybrid culture? Which things the family retains, which things which goes away? So there are questions. Is food related to culture? So some people say that food is one of symbols of culture. Then is games or enjoyment or leisure, how we enjoy ourselves, how we relax ourselves. Is this related to culture? So if you look at the American culture, they are very active, or Australian culture, they are very active. So they enjoy jogging or running and going to places, and as compared to some other place, for example, people in close to equator, because of the weather, they usually are lethargic. So they take a siesta in the evening or relax, and they are not that active because of the heat and humidity. So is that related to culture? Then are holidays and festivals related to culture? Or all of a culture of a country or of a community we can see in culture. So anthropologists look at the festivals of tribes and communities and try to understand their culture through them. So if Diwali, for example, is with the idea of Diwali is with light, and similarly Jewish culture, there is also menorah, which is 7 lit candles. So are both related? So cultures are related or not? And now we have adopted lights and such things in related to Shab Barat. So are we being influenced by Hindu culture? So culture is, of course, related to all these things, and of course these things affect culture. One scholar has talked about surface culture and deep culture. So surface culture is food, festivals, and fashion that you can see, or literature that you can see. And deep culture is notions, attitudes, approaches, concept of time, space, past, future. The difficulty in defining the culture is that if we add more things, then it will be very difficult to identify its impact, because everything is related to culture. But if we limit it to very small, then of course it will not be the effect of culture, it will be effect of family or manners or literature. So economists, because they usually measure things, so they usually try to narrow down culture. For example, one definition is that culture is customary beliefs and values that ethnic, religious, and social groups transmit fairly unchanged from generation to generation. It of course limits the culture to beliefs and values. So what about food? What about clothing? What about fashion? What about festivals? What about language? Secondly, it argues that this definition argues that culture is not changing, but culture is changing. So if you look at the Pakistani culture, is it same what was the Pakistani culture in 1960s or 70s? Is it same now? I don't think so. The third problem with defining culture is that, is the culture national? Most of the time it is not. We talk about Pakistani culture, but is there a Pakistani culture? Or are there 4 or 5 different cultures that make up the Pakistani culture? Similarly, is there a European culture, or there are separate French or Swedish or British cultures? Then again, is there an Islamic culture, or there are 50 different Muslim countries each having a different culture or more than one culture? Thank you.